The observation deck fell silent as Cadet Lyra Caney entered the combat simulation chamber. I adjusted my thermal sensors, watching her move with that peculiar human economy of motion. Perfectly balanced, utterly calm, not a single word had escaped her lips during the entire 14-week training cycle, and yet somehow the whispers had already begun. Galaxy-class threat. The classification made my dorsal spines itch with nervous energy. In my 43 years as Chief Tactical Assessor for the Galactic Defense Initiative, I had never, not once, seen such a designation applied to a trainee who had not yet fired a single shot in actual combat. The protocol existed in theory, buried in subparagraph 9 of the Threat Assessment Manual, collecting digital dust alongside contingency plans for rogue singularities and dimensional breaches. But here we were, instructor Vex, my assistant, a young Threxian named Coral, hovered nervously by my shoulder cluster. The simulation is calibrated to 7 difficulty. Should we perhaps start lower? She has not demonstrated any combat capability whatsoever. I made a dismissive gesture with 3 of my primary appendages. The parameters were set by Admiral Torvik himself. We observe, we document, we do not interfere. Through the reinforced observation glass, Lyra stood in the center of the white-lit arena, her dark hair pulled back in a simple tie, her expression blank as unmarked paper. Standard issue training uniform, no weapons, no armor, no bravado, just silence. The first wave of combat drones materialized around her in a perfect hexagonal formation, their targeting lasers painting red dots across her chest, her head, her limbs. 6 autonomous units each, capable of subduing a Vraxian heavy trooper. Standard procedure called for verbal warnings for negotiation attempts, for some acknowledgement of the threat. Lyra simply closed her eyes. What is she doing? Coral's voice climbed an octave. The drones are locked on. She needs to move, to speak, to do something. First drone fired. What happened next defied 3 separate laws of physics and at least 7 tactical doctrines I had spent my entire career studying. Lyra moved, but calling it movement felt inadequate, like describing a supernova. As merely bright, she flowed. Her body became liquid in tension, slipping through the gap between laser bursts with microscopic precision. No wasted motion, no panic, just pure terrifying efficiency. Her hand moving faster than my optical sensors could quite track. Struck the first drone central processor with surgical accuracy. The unit dropped its systems, catastrophically failing before it hit the ground. She had already pivoted, her foot connecting with the second drone's propulsion core. Metal shrieked. Circuits sparked. The drone careened into its neighbor, and both exploded in a shower of components. 15 seconds, 6 drones complete annihilation. And still she had not made a single sound. Coral's breathing apparatus wheezed frantically. Level 7, that was level 7. Instructor Vex, she just, I know what I saw. My voice came out steadier than I felt. Initiate. Level 10, but that is reserved for veteran operatives, for special forces units. For initiate level 10. The simulation chamber reconfigured itself, walls sliding back to reveal multi-tiered urban combat zone. Hostile targets appeared on rooftops, in windows, behind barricades. 23 separate threats armed with everything from pulse rifles to plasma grenades, the kind of Scenario designed to test entire squads. Working in perfect coordination. Lyra opened her eyes, scanned the environment once, and did something that sent cold dread trickling down my spinal ridge. She smiled. Not a happy smile. Not a confident smile, something else. Entirely, something that suggested she knew a joke the rest of us had not yet heard, and when we finally understood it, we would not find it funny at all. The assault began. Lyra moved through the combat zone like a ghost made of violence and geometry. She did not fight the way we trained operatives to fight, with aggressive tactics and overwhelming force. She fought like water finding cracks, like gravity pulling objects into inevitable collision. Every action served three purposes. Every movement placed her exactly where she needed to be, exactly when she needed to be there. A hostile fired from a third-story window. Lyra was already gone, her body rolling beneath the line of fire, her hand snatching a piece of debris mid-motion and hurling it with frightening accuracy. The projectile struck the hostile's weapon, jamming its firing mechanism. The hostile leaned forward, confused, and Lyra, now somehow 3 floors up via a combination of wall runs and impossible leaps, delivered a precise strike that sent the target tumbling, non-lethal. Every single takedown perfectly calibrated to neutralize without killing, which somehow made it worse. She is not even trying. Coral's voice had gone hollow with shock. This is play for her. This is practice. I could not argue. The data streaming across my analysis screens confirmed what my instincts were screaming. Lyra's heart rate remained steady at 68 beats per minute, her respiration normal. Her thermal signature showed none of the stress markers we expected from combat scenarios. She was calmer in the middle of a level 10 simulation than most cadets were during morning meditation exercises. The final hostile fell. 23 targets neutralized in 4 minutes and 18 seconds, a new station record by margin that would require scientific notation to express properly. Lyra stood among the fallen drones and training mannequins, not breathing hard, not sweating, not celebrating, just standing there, waiting for whatever came next, her expression as neutral as when she had entered. I activated the intercom. Cadet Caney, report to debriefing room 3. For the first time since her arrival at the academy, she spoke. Understood. 2 words. Her voice sounded ordinary, pleasant, even completely at odds with what we had just witnessed. She walked toward the exit with the same unhurried pace she used for everything else, leaving Coral and I staring at each other in the kind of silence that follows revelations you are not quite ready to process. Instructor Vex, Coral's color had shifted to a pale shade of concern. We need to report this immediately. The Admiral needs to know that the Admiral already knows. I gestured at the observation logs. Every training session, every simulation, every moment since Lyra Caney arrived has been transmitted directly to Fleet Command. They have been watching her as carefully as we have. Then why allow her to continue? Why not remove her, contain her, study her? I let out a long breath, feeling every one of my 43 years pressing down on me. Because, Coral, you cannot contain something you do not understand. And we do not understand her, not even a little bit. The debriefing room felt smaller than usual. I sat across the standard issue table from Lyra, studying her the way a xenobiologist might study A newly discovered predator trying to determine which parts were teeth. She sat perfectly still, hands folded in her lap, expression polite and attentive. Cadet Kane, I pulled up her file on my data pad. Your performance in today's simulation was unprecedented. She nodded slightly but offered no elaboration. You have not spoken during any training exercise. You have not asked questions. You have not socialized with other cadets. I paused, searching her face for any reaction, found nothing. Yet your scores place you first in every category by margins that exceed statistical probability. Another small nod. The other instructors are concerned. The administrative staff is concerned. I am concerned. I leaned forward, trying to project authority I was no longer certain I possessed. You are aware of your classification? Yes, Galaxy class threat. For the first time something flickered in her eyes. Amusement, annoyance gone too quickly to identify. I am aware. Instructor Vex, do you understand what that means? What it implies? It implies that someone reviewed my capabilities and determined I represented a significant tactical concern. Her tone remained perfectly neutral. It implies that under certain circumstances I might pose a danger to galactic stability. The casual way she said it sent my spines rigid. Does that not trouble you? She considered the question with the same thoughtful attention she seemed to give everything. Should it? I did not assign the classification. I simply am what I am. The label others choose to apply is their concern, not mine. And what are you exactly? The smile returned, small, almost sad. Prepared. The word hung in the air like a verdict. Prepared for what? Whatever comes next. She shifted slightly, the first unnecessary movement I had seen her make. Instructor Vex, may I ask you a question? I gestured my assent, curious despite myself. What do you think happens when a species reaches the stars? When they leave their home world and encounter the vastness of the galaxy? She did not wait for my answer. Most species assume the universe will greet them with open arms or hostile weapons. They prepare for allies or enemies. They build ships for exploration or conquest. And humans prepare for everything and nothing. Her eyes, I realized, were not empty at all. They contained depths I had mistaken for absence. We prepare for friendship and betrayal, for wonder and horror, for peace and war. We train for every scenario because our history taught us that the unexpected is the only certainty. We are not optimists or pessimists, instructor. We are survivalists who happen to dream. I tried to process that, to fit it into some framework I understood. You still have not answered my question. Why the silence? Why no engagement with your peers? Because talking is easy. She stood, the movement fluid and controlled. Anyone can make promises. Anyone can boast about their abilities. I prefer to let my actions speak when speaking becomes necessary. Until then, she shrugged. Silence is honest. Silence reveals nothing and everything. It makes people uncomfortable, makes them fill the void with their own assumptions, their own fears. That sounds manipulative. It sounds strategic. She moved toward the door, then paused. Permission to speak freely, granted. Every species in this academy has shown me what they are. The Vraxians are aggressive but predictable. The Thraxians are analytical but hesitant. The call turns are diplomatic but slow to act. Each race has strengths and weaknesses worn openly, advertised. Through behavior and culture, she turned to face me fully. Humans learned long ago that advertising your capabilities is a good way to have them countered. So we developed a different strategy. We became blank pages. We let others project their expectations onto us, then exceeded or subverted those expectations. As strategically useful. You make it sound like warfare. Instructor Vex, her expression softened. Slightly, everything is warfare, not in the sense of violence, but in the sense of competition for resources, for position, for survival. The species that recognize this reality tend to persist. The ones that do not, she let the implication dangle. I am not your enemy. I am not anyone's enemy. But I am also not naive enough to pretend that showing all my cards benefits me in an environment designed to assess and rank and ultimately judge. She left before I could formulate a response. I sat alone in the debriefing room, staring at the door she had exited through, feeling like I had just been given a glimpse into something vast and cold and utterly alien. Despite her undeniably human appearance, Coral found me an hour later, still sitting there. Instructor, are you well? No, I stood my joints. Complaining, no, I do not think I am. Schedule a meeting with Admiral Torvik tonight. Priority 1. What will you tell him? I thought about Lyra's smile, about her calm voice discussing strategy and survival with the detached interest of a scholar discussing ancient history. That we may have made a terrible mistake. What mistake? Assuming that humans who seek peace are harmless. I gathered my materials, my mind already racing through scenarios and possibilities. They are not harmless, Coral. They are merely patient, and patience in a predator is perhaps the most dangerous quality of all. The night cycle brought little rest. I reviewed Lyra's file 17 times, searching for something I had missed, some clue that would explain the disconnect between her ordinary background and her extraordinary performance. Born on Earth, standard education, no military family, no combat training registered in any database. Her application essay for the academy was 3 paragraphs long, stating simply that she wished to serve and to learn. Nothing remarkable, nothing to suggest the controlled violence I had witnessed. The medical scans were equally useless. Human baseline in every category, no genetic modifications, no cybernetic enhancements, just a healthy female human in her early 20s. Remarkable only in her complete lack of remarkable features, yet she had dismantled combat scenarios that broke veteran soldiers. My communicator chimed, Admiral Torvik, responding to my request. Vex, your message suggested urgency. Speak. I chose my words carefully. Admiral, I believe we need to reassess our approach to Cadet Kane. Today's simulation demonstrated capabilities that exceed expectations. Yes, I watched the footage. Admiral's growly voice carried undertones of something I could not quite identify. Concerned satisfaction. The question is not what she can do. Vex, the question is why, sir. Why does a civilian human with no combat background perform like a special operations veteran? Why does someone who has never left their home world move through tactical scenarios like they have been fighting their entire life? He paused. You have been an instructor for decades. What is your professional assessment? I thought about Lyra's words about preparation and survival and the patient. Hunter, she is not a prodigy admiral. Prodigies show natural talent but rough edges they make mistakes of. In experience, Lyra makes no mistakes. She does not react, she anticipates. Every movement is practiced, every decision is calculated. I felt my confidence growing as pieces aligned. She has been training long before she arrived here, training in secret. Training with purpose, training for what that admiral is what terrifies me, because if she is preparing for something specific, something she anticipates, then why apply to the academy at all? Why reveal herself? The silence that followed my question lasted long enough that I checked to see if the connection had failed. Admiral, schedule a private evaluation. Tomorrow, just you and Cadet Kane. No observers, no recordings. I want your unfiltered impression of who she is and what she wants. His voice had gone flat. Professional and Vex, be careful. The Intelligence Division has flagged 7 other human cadets across different MEs with similar profiles. Whatever Lyra Caney represents, she is not unique. She is part of a pattern. The connection terminated. I stared at the blank screen, feeling pieces of a puzzle I did not yet understand clicking into place. 7 others, 7 more humans who barely spoke and performed impossibly well. 7 more blank pages, writing themselves into galactic history. What were humans preparing for? And more importantly, were we ready for what came when their preparation ended and their true purpose began? The private evaluation room had no windows, no observation equipment, no data feeds, just 2 chairs, a table, and the kind of oppressive quiet that made even thoughts sound loud. I arrived early, reviewing my approach, discarding 17 different opening strategies before settling on the simplest one: honesty. Lyra entered exactly on time, her movement still carrying that unsettling precision. She sat without being invited, folded her hands and waited. No recording devices, I said. No monitoring. This conversation stays between us unless you give me explicit permission otherwise. Her eyebrow lifted fractionally. Surprise perhaps, or approval. Why? Because Admiral Torvik asked me to determine who you really are, and I suspect the only way to get an honest answer is to create conditions where honesty costs you nothing. I deactivated my personal comm unit, placing it on the table between us. So who are you, Lyra? Kind, and please spare me the performance. I have seen enough of the mask. For several seconds she simply studied me with those deep, measuring eyes. Then something shifted in her posture. The rigid control softened. Her shoulders dropped slightly. When she spoke again, her voice carried different weight. How much do you know about human history, instructor? General overview: tribal conflicts, industrial revolution, space exploration, the standard curriculum. Then you know we nearly destroyed ourselves multiple times. She leaned back, her gaze distant. Nuclear weapons, climate collapse, biological warfare, gone wrong, resource wars. We had dozens of opportunities to end our species, and we came terrifyingly close to taking every single one. Many species face similar challenges. Yes, but most species face those challenges and learn one lesson. We learned something different. Her focus returned to me. We learned that survival is not about being the strongest or the smartest or even the luckiest. Survival is about being adaptable enough to Handle anything while appearing harmless. Enough that others underestimate you. Until the critical moment, my spines prickled with understanding. You are saying humans deliberately cultivate deception. No, she shook her head firmly. I am saying humans learn to hold multiple truths simultaneously. We can be peaceful and prepared for war. We can be friendly and strategically cautious. We can genuinely desire cooperation while maintaining the capability for self-defense. Other species see this as contradiction. We see it as basic survival instinct and the silence, the lack of engagement. Would you trust me more if I was loud? If I bragged about my abilities? A rise smile crossed her face. Humans have a say in empty vessels make the most noise. I chose to be a full vessel, making no sound until sound became necessary. But why the academy? Why reveal yourself at all? She stood, began pacing. First truly agitated movement I had witnessed from her, because Earth is tired of being underestimated. Because we have been members of the Galactic Council for 38 years and still get treated like children playing dress up at the adult table, because every time we propose solutions, we get patronized. Every time we demonstrate capability, we get suspicious looks. Her voice carried frustration that felt genuine. We are not trying to dominate anyone. We are trying to earn basic respect. And apparently the only language the galaxy understands is overwhelming competence. So you came here to prove humans deserve respect. I came here to prove humans are already dangerous and you never noticed. She stopped pacing, fixed me with an intense stare. Do you know how many humans serve in the Galactic Defense Initiative? Approximately 4,000 across all branches. And do you know how many of those 4,000 could replicate my performance in today's simulation? The question hit like a physical blow. How many? All of them. She let that sink in. Every single human in this organization has undergone similar preparation. We have a culture of readiness that other species interpret as paranoia. We train our children conflict resolution and self-defense. We teach strategy through games. We embed tactical thinking into our education system so thoroughly that most humans do not even realize they are being militarized from birth. That is I struggled for words. That is terrifying. That is prudent. Her tone hardened. We have been conquered before, enslaved, subjected to genocides, not by aliens, by ourselves. So when we reached the stars and found a galaxy full of new potential threats, we decided never again, never helpless, never unprepared, never caught off guard. Then why hide it? Why not simply announce your capabilities? Because announced capabilities invite preemptive action. She sat back down, her expression turning cold. If we told the galaxy that every human is a trained strategic asset, what do you think would happen? Would they welcome us, or would they decide we were too dangerous to allow near sensitive systems? The logic was airtight and absolutely chilling. You are playing a very dangerous game. Cadet Kane, we are surviving. Instructor Vex, there is a difference. She pulled something from her pocket, a small data chip. This contains information about the other 6 cadets you have been investigating. Their backgrounds, their capabilities, their purposes. 7, the Admiral mentioned 7. Others. 6, her smile turned predatory. You miscounted, or rather intelligence miscounted. There are actually 43 humans currently in various galactic militaries, all performing well, none spectacular, all carefully calibrated to appear talented but not threatening, my blood. When cold, except you, except me. She slid the chip across the table. I am the outlier, the one who was supposed to perform normally, but decided the strategy had outlived its usefulness. Because here is what humanity finally understood after watching galactic politics for nearly 4 decades. You do not respect what you cannot see. You do not negotiate fairly with those you consider weak, and you definitely do not listen to species who cannot back up their words with demonstrable force. So you became the demonstration. I became the warning shot. She stood again, but this time her posture radiated authority I had not seen before. Admiral Torvik knows what I am. The intelligence division knows. The council suspects, and now you know. Question is what everyone does with that information. The council will demand answers, possibly sanctions. Let them. She moved toward the door. Humans have survived worse than diplomatic pressure. We have survived asteroid impacts and super volcano eruptions and our own stupidity. We will survive whatever the galaxy throws at us. Because that is what we do. We survive. We adapt. We overcome. Wait, I stood, my mind reeling with implications. Why tell me all this? Why not maintain the deception? She paused at the threshold, glanced back over her shoulder. Because deception has a shelf life, because eventually someone figures it out, and when they do, the smart play is controlling the narrative. Her expression softened slightly. Also because I actually respect you. Instructor Vex, you have been fair. Tough but fair. You deserve to know the truth before you file your report. What makes you think I will not report everything you just told me? Because you are smart enough to understand the game. Board has changed. Reporting what I said accomplishes nothing except accelerating tension, but keeping this conversation private while carefully managing information flow. That gives you leverage. That makes you valuable to both sides. She smiled genuinely. For the first time since I had met her, you are a survivor too, instructor. I recognize my own kind. Then she was gone, leaving me alone with a data chip and about 17 existential crises queued up for processing. I did not sleep that night either. Instead, I accessed the data chip in my private quarters. Security protocols engaged, half expecting malware or propaganda. What I found was worse, much worse. Detailed DOSes on 43 human cadets. Their real training histories, the underground networks of combat schools operating on Earth, the systematic preparation that began in childhood and continued through adulthood, martial arts, tactical analysis, survival skills, weapons proficiency, all taught under the guise of sports and hobbies and cultural traditions, and woven even through it all, a philosophy I found simultaneously admirable and horrifying. Never again. The humans had looked at their own bloody history and decided that weakness invited aggression, that peaceful intentions meant nothing without the capability to defend those intentions, that the galaxy was fundamentally competitive, and any species unprepared for competition would eventually become prey. So they prepared an entire civilization, militarized to its core while maintaining a facade of friendly, eager to please newcomers. The genius was stunning. The implications were staggering. My Communicator buzzed, Admiral Torvik, requesting an immediate secure channel. I accepted. Vex, I assume you have had your conversation with Cadet Caney. Yes, Admiral, and I considered my options. Considered what Lyra had said about leverage and survival, made my choice. She is exactly what her classification suggests, a galaxy-class threat, but not in the way we assumed. Explain. We categorized her as a threat because of her individual capabilities, but she is not the danger. She is a symptom of the actual danger. I pulled up the data on my screen. Humanity, Admiral, that is the galaxy-class threat, not because they are aggressive, but because they are prepared in ways we never anticipated. Silence. Then you sound almost admiring. I am terrified, Admiral, but I also respect strategy. Executed this flawlessly. They saw a system that rewarded strength and decided to become strong while appearing weak. It is brilliant. It is deceptive. Yes, I made a decision, and we have been complicit. We created conditions where humans felt this was necessary. We underestimated them, patronized them, excluded them from serious discussions. We made them prove themselves over and over while giving other species the benefit of doubt. Careful, Vex. That sounds dangerously like sympathy. It is not sympathy, Admiral. It is pattern recognition. I pulled up comparative data. Every species that has been marginalized in council politics has either faded into irrelevance or developed compensating strategies. The Kaltorans became master diplomats, the Threxians became information brokers, and humans became the species you never see coming until it is too late. Another long pause. What do you recommend? The question surprised me. Admirals rarely asked subordinates for strategic guidance. Change the equation. Stop treating humans like potential threats and start treating them like the capable allies they have been trying to prove they are. Give them real responsibilities. Listen to their proposals seriously. Include them in high-level planning. I took a breath and maybe, just maybe, acknowledge that a species that survived everything they survived might have valuable insights about survival. That could be seen as rewarding deception, or it could be seen as recognizing reality before it becomes a crisis. I thought about Lyra's calm face, her measured words. Humans are already here, Admiral, already integrated into our systems, already capable of causing significant disruption if they choose. We can either continue pretending they are harmless and wait for the inevitable confrontation, or we can adapt our strategy to match the actual situation. You have changed your assessment significantly since yesterday. Yesterday, I was scared of what I did not understand. Today, I understand it, and I am even more scared, but I am also pragmatic. Fear without action is just paralysis, and paralysis in a competitive environment is death. I could almost hear the Admiral thinking through the communicator. Complete your assessment. Full report, but Vex, keep the detailed intelligence to yourself for now. If what you are suggesting is accurate, we need to control this information very carefully. Understood, Admiral. The connection ended. I looked at the data chip, at the evidence of humanity's grand strategy, and felt something shift. In my perspective, they were not monsters. They were not even villains. They were simply a species that had learned very hard lessons and decided never to forget them. In a way, I envied them that clarity of purpose. The next morning, I filed my official report. Cadet Lyra Caney demonstrated exceptional tactical capabilities, recommended for advanced placement, strategic operations, potential asset. For complex mission profiles, no mention of our conversation, no mention of the 43 cadets, no mention of Earth's systematic preparation program, just a simple recommendation to promote someone clearly qualified. 2 weeks later, Lyra graduated at the top of her class. During the ceremony, she gave a brief speech, her first public words since arriving at the Academy. Thank you for this honor. I hope to serve with distinction and prove that humans are ready to contribute meaningfully to galactic security. We have much to learn, but we also have much to offer. All we ask is the opportunity to show what we can do. The assembled audience applauded politely, only I noticed the subtle emphasis she placed on certain words, the quiet threat wrapped in diplomatic language. We are ready. We have much to offer. All we ask is opportunity. Translation: we are prepared. We are capable. Give us what we deserve or we will take it. Afterward, I found her on the observation deck staring out at the stars. Congratulations, cadet, or should I say lieutenant? Thank you, instructor. Vex, she glanced at me. I appreciate everything you taught me. I taught you nothing. You already knew it all. You taught me something far more valuable. You taught me that some aliens can recognize reality and adapt accordingly. That gives me hope. Hope for what? That when humanity finally stops pretending to be less than we are, we will find allies instead of enemies. She turned fully to face me. We do not want conflict, instructor. We genuinely want cooperation. But we will settle for respect, and if we cannot get respect through diplomacy, we will earn it through demonstration. That sounds like a threat. That sounds like honesty. She extended her hand, the human gesture of friendship. Thank you for listening. Thank you for understanding, and thank you for not forcing a confrontation neither of us wanted. I looked at her hand, at the simple human gesture carrying so much weight. Then I reached out and grasped it. Lieutenant Caney, one last question. Yes, when you close your eyes during combat simulations, what are you thinking about? Her smile was genuine and terrifying in equal measure. Home. I am thinking about Earth and everyone there who is counting on me to prove we belong out here among the stars. I am thinking about the billions of humans who have been waiting patiently for the galaxy to notice we are more than harmless newcomers. She released my hand, and I am thinking about how much easier everything will be when we stop hiding. She walked away, leaving me with the stars in my thoughts. Somewhere out there, Earth continued turning. Billions of humans continued their daily lives, unaware that one of their own had just rewritten the galactic power dynamic. And 42 other human cadets continued their training, waiting for the signal that the time for pretending had ended. I returned to my quarters and encrypted a message to Admiral Torvik. Sir, recommend immediate review of human integration protocols. We are not dealing with a minor species anymore. We never were. Suggest shifting strategy from containment to engagement. Before humans decide, engagement is no longer optional. They have been patient, but patience, as I am learning, is not the same as passivity. It is simply delayed action, and I suspect humanity's action, when it finally comes, will surprise us all. I sent the message and poured myself a drink. The galaxy was about to get very interesting, and I had a front row seat to watch it unfold. Somewhere in the academy, Lyra Caney was probably smiling,